There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. And you want to talk about inspiring people and talking about the things that are just pure life and how you can survive and to thrive through it and to live your life in the best way that you can, given the circumstances you have. If that reminds me or reminds you of you, then we have got a great guest for you today. And Brachelle's going to introduce her. Brachelle, have at it.
Yes, well, we have Rachel Kerr Schneider here on the show with us today. And she has a website, which is exactly what Kevin was saying, spiritedprosperity.com. She says that life can be challenging, but together we can make it better. So welcome, Rachel. How are you?
Oh, Brachelle, I am so excited. That intro. I love that. I was going to say, who are you guys talking to today? Because I am fired up. That's so exciting. And Positive Talk Radio, I'm like, who doesn't need more positive talk? Absolutely. I'm all about it. So thank you for having me today.
Oh, you not only are you welcome, my dear, you have got a lot that you're going to contribute to us, to the show, and to the people around the world that are listening to this presentation now or in the future. And so I would love for you I would love for you to tell your story first.
Kevin, do we have that much time? I don't think we've got that much time. I think that's why they have to read the book, right? But I can
Exactly.
I can give a Reader's Digest version of my story, because here's the thing. I know that you guys have a lot of good questions to ask, and I want to hear those, because I know Brachelle and I actually have a connection based on my story. And we need to explore that too. So anyway, here's the story. I am a gal that grew up in the Deep South, faith-filled family, had a lot of biblical knowledge, and just grew up knowing who God was and who Jesus was and all that good stuff. Did college, I got married, I became a trailing spouse. I followed my husband all over the country, relocated 7 times in 15 years, doing that whole thing, setting up home, finding community, and had 2 boys, 4 years apart. I became a mom at the age of 34. I know. That's old in today's standards, but I did it and I survived it. And then I did it again at 38. And my husband, after 21 years of marriage, we were living our, blessed, beautiful life outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he realized that something was going on. He had been an athlete, so he was used to kind of things being a little weird sometimes, those aches and pains that we all get. And invariably, it wasn't getting better. So long story short, he was diagnosed with a disease known as ALS. And it's the long form amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Try and say that fast 5 times.
I can't say that at all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's, I would say it's a killer, pun intended. It's terrible. It's awful. It's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And it's also known around the world as motor neuron disease. And basically what happens is the brain, the messages to the muscle that are carried from the brain are carried by the motor neurons. Here's your science lesson for today, people, because I didn't know. I didn't know what a motor neuron was. Did you guys ever hear about them in school? I didn't. So
I've never just studied car stuff, and I would think that's a car thing.
A motor neuron? Okay, there you go. I like that, Kevin. You're absolutely right. A motor neuron. Well, here's the thing. They carry the messages from the brain to the muscle. Okay. And what happens with Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS is that they start to die. They don't exist. So what happens is your muscles don't get the messages and the body starts to self paralyze. And your brain stays intact, right? So imagine that you have an itch on the end of your nose and you can't raise your hand to get your finger to the edge of your nose, right? You can't scratch it. Or you want to turn over in bed at night. You can't do that. You've got to have help. And ultimately, what happens, here's the rest of the science lesson, our diaphragm is a muscle, right? Our diaphragm is what moves our lungs and keeps our lungs going. And ultimately, because it is a muscle, it stops working. And so the person with the disease stops breathing. And it is a diagnosis that no doctor wants to give. It is a diagnosis that no person ever wants to get. There are currently about 30,000 people in the United States that are living and dying from ALS, and about between 5,000 and 6,000 people will be diagnosed with it this year. Now, to give you kind of an idea, the Alzheimer's population is about 7 million. So you can kind of see it's a very small community. It's why a lot of people still don't know about it. It doesn't hurt my feelings because I was one of them. I didn't know anybody with it. I had never heard of it. And when John got this diagnosis, we were both just absolutely in shock. So that is the beginning of of our journey and what the rest of our life looked like. He died about 3 years to the date of his diagnosis, and I was widowed at 49 with 2 young boys who were 10 and 14.
That is the most horrible thing I can think of because, and when you mentioned you lose your bodily functions, but your mind is intact.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd rather have Alzheimer's because at least I don't know that I have Alzheimer's and it's not intact. But to sit there and know, because you mentioned this before we even started the show, and that is, that when you wake up in the morning, by the end of the day, there may be something that you could do yesterday that you can no longer do today, and it ain't ever coming back. In fact, Brichelle's grandmother had the same diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine how tough it would and how hard it would be for someone like you who loved that man dearly and had a long life and had a couple of kids together, to watch him deteriorate like that. It's horrific. Congratulations. And you're so positive. I'm so proud of the person that you are. So, Brichelle, give us because I want to honor your grandma. Talk about her for just a sec.
Yes.
Yeah, my great grandma, she passed before I was born, but I've known her my whole life. And she was diagnosed first with MS, and then they didn't really ever know what I think it really was. And I've heard so many, well, not so many, but I've heard a few stories of relations to how angry these people can get, and oh my Lord, how could you not? What was it like to try to keep yourself positive, but also keep him on a good, positive set mind frame? Or did you just let him be mad?
Well, Brichelle, it's a great question, because here's the thing. I think for the first year, we were still in shock. I think you're just in shock for so long. And here's the thing. 3 weeks after we got the official diagnosis, he was let go from his job. So I felt like and it had nothing to do with his diagnosis. They didn't know about it. They were just making cutbacks in the company. So I felt like the truck, which he worked for, a truck company, I felt like the truck had run us over with the diagnosis, and then was backing up when he lost his job to just make sure that we were completely flattened, right? And I suppose I should have been mad, but I think I was just in too much shock to go. And so, you kind of go, wow. And John, I think being let go from that job, because it was such a big job and he loved it, and it was the peak of his career, and he had just done so much for the business. I think when he got that piece of news, it totally distracted him from the other for a little while, but it was still lurking back there. But I will tell you that anger, it wasn't so much one of the things, it wasn't one of the emotions, and it's still not today. I will tell you, I am just not a person that anger and I are just not well acquainted. Upset maybe, but anger is a whole nother thing. And I think that part of the way that I coped, humor is one of my coping mechanisms. Other people, anger might be somebody else's, but I think shock was just the biggest part of it for the longest time. And then it was just, managing, right? How do we manage this? What do we do? Put the house up for sale, try to move, do all the things. And we even waited a year before we told our two young boys, because we just really needed some time. And that's the thing about ALS too, is it progresses slowly. So that first year, you can't, only the person that has it can really kind of tell. It progresses, but sometimes depending on where it presents, you can't tell. And because John was it was in his foot, within a year, his whole left side was definitely affected, and you could tell. And that's when we knew we had to tell the boys. And it was quite a moment to tell them. And I write about it in the book, because with our children, we never want to lie. We never want to lie to them. And yet telling them the truth about something that is going to change their life in such a way was definitely a memorable moment.
Could only imagine.
And I have to ask you, because people are asking for this, because he was a young man.
Yes,
he was in his 40s.
Yes. He was 47 when he was diagnosed, and 50 when he died. And we had the feeding tube put in it was February, and he died that following September. So people will take different measures. About 85% of ALS patients opt to get a feeding tube, because ultimately too, your ability to chew, right, and to eat greatly is affected. So the feeding tube, they like for you to get it before you need it, because your body's not going to be able to withstand the procedure by the time you do need it. So they like to put it in ahead of time. And then about less than 10% actually opt for the trach, which is the breathing tube. And of course, when you get a breathing tube, that completely affects the level of care. You rise to another level of care, because there's so much that has to be attended to, making sure that that's clean and no infections and all that. And plus, of course, then you ultimately, all ALS patients usually lose their ability to speak. So while the technology has come a long way in how they can communicate using eye gaze machines, how they're lifted and moved and transported, all of that has up-leveled quite a bit. But it's still so frustrating. I suppose if there's anything I could be angry about, Rochelle, it would be the fact that we're no closer to finding a cause or a cure for such a brutal disease. That upsets me.
That's fair. And I'm also very jealous of you. I wish that I could use humor instead of anger. I'm going to try that.
She's real good at the anger thing.
Yes. But we need to take our first break, and then I want to talk about exactly that. And while we're in the break, I'm going to Google maybe some things, because I've heard that it doesn't matter what age you are for ALS. and talking about that a little bit. So everybody go to her website while we're on our first little break here, spiritedprosperity.com. She has the option to get connected. Her book, which we're going to talk about, she's got media and speaking and of other events and ways to contact her. So go visit that website, and Kevin's going to take us to break.
And what do you want me to play, Rochelle?
You know, I was thinking we need to create some new ones because we just have so many people saying things, but we already have so many of them. I'm thinking, for the opening of the show, We Are All One. I really love that video, Kevin. We need that now.
I think you're correct. And we will be right back in exactly 1 minute and 1 second. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. Look at the world today. We see conflict, poverty, and division driven by the tragic illusion that my people are separate from yours. This belief in separation is the single greatest obstacle to peace. The truth is, humanity is a single global body. When one part of that body, a child in poverty, a family fleeing violence, is in pain, the entire system suffers. We cannot truly be well while our brothers and sisters are wounded. There's no us and them in this body, only us. Our sacred responsibility is to move past labels and see the shared light and common dignity in every single person on earth. Justice, for one, is justice for all. Compassion, for one, is compassion for all. This is the blueprint for global survival. We are one global family. Let empathy be our border, and let love be the only banner we carry. And welcome back to Positive Talk. We've got Rochelle is right here, and Rachel Kerr Schneider is here. She's got a book, and the title of her book, Rochelle, is
Don't Kill Me. Rachel, what is it?
It's called The Widow Chose Red? ? My Journey with Jesus, John, and ALS.
Oh.
Very, very cool. First of all, I got to ask you, Rachel, what did you think of that piece?
I love it. I mean, seriously, everything you say is so true, and you say it in such an uplifting way. And the reality is, and I've traveled all over the world, we all as people really want the same things. We want good health, we want protection for our family, we want a good life, a good job. And we really, if we were left to our own devices most of the time, I think we'd just be fine, because we really have so much more in common than what sets us apart. And I just wish that we could focus more on that. I was in Egypt last September, and the people there couldn't be nicer. I mean, everything about my world travels has just told me that all in all, we are people, and kindness exists, and compassion exists, and courtesy exists. And if we could, if the people in charge could remember that, I think we'd do a whole lot better. And I'll just leave it at that.
That's a wise place to leave it at that, by the way. But I wanted to ask you, because this is something, and quite frankly, my brother passed from lung cancer. And he never believed in what they told him. He never accepted the diagnosis that he was stage 4 and that he was terminal. Okay. And until the day he passed away, it was kind of, I imagine it was a shock for him. I wasn't there, but what is it like when you're sitting in a doctor's office and they give you a diagnosis like ALS? It's like, it has to take your breath away.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And here's the thing. We were at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, the mothership of medicine. People come from all over the world to be treated at the Mayo Clinic. And it's one thing to get a diagnosis, because the first thing when somebody says you have this, then you go, okay, well, what are we going to do about it, right? But when the doctor says you just need to go home and get your affairs in order, I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, that's where the anger would kick in for me.
Okay. All right, Rochelle would be attacking the doctor at this point. I'm just like, is that the best you got? Seriously? That's it? And, then of course I made the mistake of running to the internet and Googling and overwhelming myself with all of this. And there's, and of course, there's always, and I will tell you in complete transparency, John and I did step out of the box and we went out of this country and we did do a stem cell treatments. And I do believe stem cells. I mean, now remember, this was 15, 16, 17 years ago. Now you can go around the corner and have stem cells injected into your knee or your neck or wherever you need them. We were traveling outside of the country for something that was illegal in this country. But John felt like, I mean, he really wanted to at least give it a try. Nothing was guaranteed, but my husband just felt like, okay, I just at least need to give this a go. And let me tell you, we did all the alternative. We detoxed, organic, you name it, all the things that now are somewhat normal. It wasn't 15 years ago. And so I will tell you, Kevin, I mean, I kind of applaud your brother. It was your brother, right? Your brother?
Yep.
Because I mean, I think that keeping your mindset to a place, because here's the other thing. What happens to your mental health when you get news like this? Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't handle it. It is not uncommon. And I didn't realize it until later, but there are people who got this diagnosis that said, I'm not going to end that way. And they made other arrangements. And I know my husband, when I told him I needed to see a counselor, he was like, are you going to leave me? Are you going to leave me now? And I go, oh, honey, no way. I go, we made a vow till death do us part. It's just the death is going to part us a lot sooner than I thought. So I need some help with this because my parents are still alive. His parents are still alive. I didn't have much experience with helping anybody die ever. And I wanted him to finish well. And I wanted to know that I left it all out on the field, that we said what needed to be said, that we did what we needed to do. And I will tell you, I do wish, there's a part of me that wishes that if I had spent that kind of time and determination in building relationship with my husband the last 3 years of his life, we were so busy growing a family and doing the career and all of that stuff. There's a part of me sometimes that says, if I had just really, given that energy to that relationship in that way, wow. I'm just glad that I was able to do it for even those 3 years. Lots of tears, lots of hard conversations, lots of facing fear and the unknown together. But we did it. And he would be probably upset with me for writing a book and putting his story out there in such a public way, because he was such a private person. But I knew while we were living through it that there was a reason that this was happening, because there wasn't anybody else. I immediately went to find where's another one of me out there, because I need to know that there are other people that are dealing with this. And social media didn't exist then like it does today, where you can go on and type in a few words and say, I'm living with ALS, or my spouse has ALS. Where do I go? That wasn't available. So, okay, I forgot. That was a long answer to a short question. I apologize, guys.
First of all, I got to tell you, Rachel, and I think Rochelle will agree with me. We love your spirit. Aww. We love the person that you are and the energy that you bring to it, because I can't imagine being the guy. And my children were 3 years apart. Okay. And I can't imagine having one being 10 and 14 and having to have that conversation, because that I was not going to be there to watch them grow up, to watch them get married, to watch them graduate from college, to do all of the things that you are expected to do. That would be really hard for both you and he to deal with, and thank goodness that your spirit is the way it is. Don't you agree, Rochelle?
100%. In a way, with all love, I believe that only certain things happen to certain people. Because, Rachel, if this wouldn't happen, this book wouldn't exist. People like you who were alone wouldn't know, hey, wait, Rachel understands. She gets it. She went through it. Maybe she can help me. And in that process of building community, leaning on each other, well, who do I have? Who knows what? And while we were on that break, I did some research. And it says usually between the ages of 40 and 70s when it happens, but it is starting now in the last 5 or 6 years, as early as 20s and 30s. So I must ask, is there things that they were able to tell you that you learned are what maybe causes it, so people can pay attention to those things? Or is it just
It's,
happens?
Rochelle, I wish it's so random. I am telling you, it
Okay.
is so random. There is a strain of ALS that is somewhat genetic, that's familial. So if someone in your family has had it, or like John, we started thinking back or going back through tracing the family tree, thinking maybe somebody had it, we didn't know about it. So there is a strain of that, but then a lot of times, they're finding that a lot of our vets, because of trauma that they have been subjected to, something happens. I believe that there's some kind of trauma, but it could be, they haven't been able to really piece it all together. So it still remains a mystery. And, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Eric Dane, the actor on Grey's Anatomy, who just became public about it last May. And his decline has been, somewhat, he's already in a wheelchair. His speech is already being affected. But it's pretty possible that Eric may have already had it for another year or two before they were able to figure out what was going on. That's not unusual. But seeing these young people, because I follow many of them on social, they put it all out there. I mean, you are seeing, and there are several that are 3 years into this, 4 years into this, and the decline is there, and they are on the breathing apparatus full time, and they know, and I'm telling you, it is heartbreaking. And Kevin, what you were saying about being a father, that was the thing. John and I had over 20 years together, so I knew he was gonna miss me, but those boys had a piece of his heart that were just, that he was just devastated about the fact that the one thing, being a father, which was one of the greatest aspirations of his life, that he just wasn't going to see it. And even to this day, one of the things that breaks my heart is my youngest, Jake, who was 10 at the time. He is so much like his father in stature and build and personality. And I will say to him, I'll say, oh my gosh, you remind me so much of your dad when you do that, or, oh, how much you look like him. And he will just look at me and say, Mom, it's just really hard for me to remember Dad like you do. And, he wasn't the guy that was going to do, well, we didn't even have cell phones like we have now with the video cameras built. We didn't have any of that, I know. I'm sitting here going, what am I, 100 years old? No. But I was, I was in my late 40s. I was 49, and we didn't have all the technology and so making movies and doing all that kind of stuff, like that's what I'm witnessing now, are these people who are so real and honest, sharing their stories real time. And it does serve a purpose, because it does offer some encouragement, and we're able to offer encouragement to them, even though it's virtually. It still counts. It still matters.
It's a really, really big deal. And being a father of 2 boys, I understand why he wanted to go and to the ends of the earth to see if he could find a way to live longer, not for himself, but for them.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's actually the second book that I'm working on now, which I'm shooting for release on Mother's Day. It's
Oh,
going to
wait a
be,
minute. Hold on.
yeah,
Say that again. Your second book? What's
the
it called?
second, the second book's going to be The Boys, the Bible, and the Battles, because wow, you guys are so good for my ego. Let me tell you, I appreciate that. Thank
Well,
you.
you deserve every piece of goodness, love, and kindness that anybody can give you. And in fact, we need to take our halftime break because I want to play this for you, and we are dedicating this to you. Rochelle, do you know what I'm going to do?
I already know because she said it.
The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. And welcome back. And Rachel Kerr Schneider is with us and Rochelle's with us. Did you like that one, Rachel?
I loved it. You guys, I could watch those all day. I mean, seriously, they are wonderful. And it's, it's real people, it's real thought, it's real action, and it is simple. It may not always be easy, but it is simple. And I love that.
I did just want to say, in case anybody's wondering, giving somebody a smile is free.
Love it. Absolutely. Yes.
Doesn't cost you a thing, but you can I drove a bus for 12 years and I could change the entire mood of the bus by my smile and by saying hello to everybody. It was a really big deal, and we can all do that. And Rochelle, she's taken to, by the way, go ahead, Rochelle.
No, I just think it's funny because the one that I was thinking about for the first break is the one that you played for the second break, and the one that I was thinking you were gonna play, you have to play next. That's why I put it in the private chat. So, because we talk about we're willing to die for what we love, but are you willing to live for it? And Rachel, I have to ask you what it was like when you accepted writing a book about this experience.
I love how you say I accepted, because I think people don't value acceptance. And I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot in our lives because we're always told, oh, you've got to fight this, you got to work through it, you got to and sometimes I'm like, wait a second. And I had to reach that point in our journey of acceptance. And acceptance isn't weakness, it's just acknowledgement of the reality of where you're at and your situation. And yet a lot of us just don't want to do that, right? I mean,
It's a choice.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And so, and I think a lot of people just don't, they don't choose wisely sometimes as it relates to that. But in terms of doing the book, so here's the thing. I thought that after my husband passed, that I was going to build my platform. I was going to write this book. I was going to be out there speaking. I was going to be inspiring other women. And that was what was going to happen. Well, guess what? I had 2 boys, and the oldest goes down this path of addiction. So guess what? Rachel's got a whole different world to navigate now. And after coming through this journey with John, where there was absolutely nothing we could do to save him. I mean, we tried, we did step out of the box. I'm now at a place where, remember, John is 14 years old. We don't know what we know today. The awareness level wasn't there about kids and trauma, kids and grief, mental health, all of it. He was an adolescent. He was just first year high school. I'm going, okay, what? I didn't, drugs? You're going to throw drugs in here? Where did that come from? So what I knew is that it wasn't time for me to do the book. There was more to the story. There was going to have to be more to the story. And these kids, what I didn't realize for the first couple of years was that they were scared to death they were going to lose their other parent.
Sure.
It never crossed my mind. Like, they're scared. Nothing's going to happen. No, that's what they were living with. They saw one go. Who says something can't happen to the other? It took me a while to figure that that was a fear that was real and true to them.
Well, and the interesting thing too is when you're a 10-year-old boy and a 14-year-old boy, you're looking up to that guy who comes home every day, who's strong, who's tough, who's big, and you look up to him like he's indestructible.
Yes. And that's exactly what boys are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be pulling away from their mother and identifying with that strong male figure in their life. And guess what? Now they don't have him. And I wasn't designed to be dad. I wasn't born to be a guy, and so there's this huge void. And yet they're wondering, could something happen? Could something happen to mom? And so I had to wait, Rochelle. I had to wait. And when I finally got to this place 13 years later, I will tell you, I had gone to a retreat and had done some journaling and actually written down that at some point I was going to write 3 faith-based books. At that time, I didn't know that it was going to be this serial memoir that I'm doing now, because I didn't want to write Gone with the Wind because people aren't going to read 900 pages. So I just decided to chunk it up and make it a little smaller so that it would be easier to digest. And then the focus of this one can be about our journey through, getting John help, because I will tell you, I did it all. I mean, I was seeing counselors, we did rehab, we did counseling. I even had a counselor say, I'm not qualified to help you. I'm like, could you have told me that a couple of months ago? But I just didn't know. And there weren't a whole lot of people. AA was still about the only thing that was available, and that's great. But, kids are a whole nother ball game. And it was hard. It was super, super hard. But that's why I had to wait to put it down on paper. But I have had people say, gosh, Rachel, your ability to remember things is amazing. I was journaling. I was making notes. I was keeping calendars. So I have a lot of physical evidence that I could go back to help prompt me through it all.
And I have to ask, because somebody in our audience is asking me, how is John today?
Thank you for asking. John is clean and sober. John is a dad.
Hold on a second. Yes.
Here's what I will tell you. John does everything the hard way. I don't know that that's ever going to stop. But he is a dad.
Maybe that's why we get along, Kevin.
Right? But here's what I know. When John became a dad, that has filled the hole in his heart. And he did that backwards too, but it's okay. I'm a yaya to 2 precious little ones who are 5 and 3. And my son he's engaged now. He's got a great job. he's that man that my husband knew he could be. And I am still amazed sometimes that this is the guy. You're the kid that put me through all that. You're the one. Because I'm like, somebody's paying you. You have a job that you show up. I mean, those are the things. Because as a mom, you're sometimes like, this is never. I mean, seriously, how? It's the truth, though. It's the truth. But that he is in such a great place now. He's a little skeptical about what this second book's. He's like, Mom, you're not going to ruin my career now with everything. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But John, your story is going to give people hope, because here's what he did share with me. And let me tell you, I threw everything but the kitchen sink at his addiction. He was very clear in letting me know how much he appreciated all that I did. But ultimately, as for anyone who has dealt with someone who has addiction, he had to make the decision. And yet it's very hard when we see these young people in our lives who emotionally, and remember, here's the other thing. He was emotionally stunted. His dad died when he was 14. So his ability to mature stopped. It's like he got stuck at 14 for a long, long time. And recognizing that he wasn't going to be able to make these decisions, and then seeing the addiction layered on that, it's really been quite a journey. But he's in a great place now, and he's still a guy. He's still got some emotion. He's still got some maturing to do. I'll just leave it at that.
They'll always be behind.
Yes, I think so, Rochelle. I think so.
Oh, I know.
Kevin, don't get upset with that.
Yeah, no, Kevin, that's why we love you, because you had enough time and you get it now.
Yeah.
It took a long time for me to get it, but because by the way, John, as he was growing up, one of the things was that he was in a lot of pain, and so he used illegal medicine to ease the pain, and it was something that, until he recognized that this isn't going to help, and this isn't the right thing. But I will tell you this: when you're a guy and you don't have any idea what love is, and then you have a child, that may be, in some cases, the first time that you love anything more than you love yourself.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more, Kevin. Great point. Yes.
And that is, I encourage, and do it the right way, of course. Yes, but I encourage every guy that has got immaturity. And see, we're raised to be immature.
Okay, wait a minute. Is that my fault?
Yeah, I'm like, then what are we raised for? Patient?
Wait a minute.
No.
Let's back up the bus, Kevin.
Beep. We depend upon you guys to carry us through, because so that we can.
Rochelle, you need to step in here. Help him out, man. He has got to get himself out of this.
No, he's got it all figured out.
Okay.
But if you can relate to Kevin, get it figured out. That's the point.
That really is the point, because you go ahead.
Exactly what you're saying, Kevin, though, Rachel, he's so right, because what kind of an experience are we spending on sharing with our sons? Oh, have you worked on your emotions this week? What have you been feeling? Yeah. How are you feeling? What are you going through? What are your thoughts like? How is your relationship with your friends? Like girls, they just talk it. They don't shut up about those things, right? Whether you want to hear it or not, you're going to hear it.
Yes.
But with the guys, it's not like that. And I want to know, when we come back from this next break, if you had moments like that where you just sat down with them and just right there with them in the moment at wherever they were, and were able to just talk to them, and what that was like for them and for you going on in the future.
Okay.
And I know you opened your heart and your mind up to him and allowed him to feel like he could cry, but the consensus in our society is if you're a guy and you cry or feel emotions, you're weak. And we're all taught to be stronger than heck. But you know what I found as I've gotten older? Women who, and by the way, guys, this is instructive for you, and then we got to go to break. If you display emotions to your significant other or somebody else, and you actually can cry a little bit and be real, you're gonna get the girl. I'm telling you, because they appreciate somebody that is that is strong enough in themselves to be able to express real emotions. Is that true, Rochelle?
Yeah, let's leave it with the thought of crying can be sexy. Maybe then they'll like it, right? Emotion is attractive. I'm going to start making all these
Yes,
plasters.
I love that. Emotion is attractive. I like it. Yes,
it is. It's sexy.
Well, and well, you just said the word that's going to get most guys on board with that is the sexy thing. So,
Oh yeah.
We'll be right back.
Oh, yeah, I think we should take a break now.
For way too long, we've allowed shadows to dictate our steps. Our clamor of division, the whisper of fear, and the harsh grip of hate. They've tried to define us. But this is our moment of truth. We remember who we truly are. Not just separate islands, but a vast ocean of shared humanity. We declare our independence from the narratives that have pulled us apart. We choose curiosity over judgment, empathy over indifference, understanding over accusation. This isn't about ignoring our differences. It's about celebrating the strength woven into our tapestry. It's about remembering that progress isn't built on exclusion, but on common ground. So let the banners of kindness fly high. Let the anthem of unity ring out. This is our declaration, our independence from what limits us, our freedom to truly connect. Because together we are stronger. And together we are free. And this declaration is brought to you by Positive Talk Radio. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Rochelle, I hit the wrong button. I'm so sorry. I played the So before we go out today, I do have to play the one that Rochelle suggested and while that one was good, and it's about us all working together for the betterment of all of us, and that includes all manners of stuff, and includes addiction management and stuff. And I have to tell you, Rachel, there are people that are listening to us talking, and they need to go out and buy your book, which again is the title of it is
The Widow Chose Red? Question mark. Like, why? Why did the widow choose red? Yes. My journey with Jesus, John, and ALS.
And also the second book, have you got a title for it yet?
The second book, the header will be The Widow Chose Red, because I'm still choosing red, the boys, the battle, and the Bible. That's what it will be about. Yes.
And you have got to come back and talk to us when that book is about to, because we want to promote it heavily because of the person that you are. Because Michelle, there are people in our audience going, well, wait a minute. She had her husband died early of ALS. Her son had addiction issues. And she's such a positive person. How in the heck did that happen?
Is it why the widow chose red? Does that tie into that, Rachel? Because I have to know.
Yes, very much so. And I will tell you that if I didn't have my faith, I would be in a fetal position on the floor somewhere. Okay. I have to put that there. I chose red. Now, here's the other thing. Celebration of life is still a relatively new term. 15, 20 years ago, we were still doing funerals and memorial services. We were not, putting on the deceased person's favorite color or wearing Hawaiian shirts and doing all the things that we are now doing. Celebration of life is still, I know people don't realize that, but it's still a relatively new term. And I wanted to make sure, because the boys were so young, I knew we were going to have a lot of kids at John's service. So part of it was about making sure that we set an intention that we were going to remember all of the great things about John's life and what he brought and left us in this world. Rather, even though he did die from such a brutal death, that wasn't what we were going to focus on, right? So I chose red because it's the color of love, it's the color of passion, it's also the color of the Holy Spirit as it appears as a flame in Pentecost. And so, as Kevin mentioned earlier, I think spirit is just so important. And for me, red was just my way of saying, you know what? I am celebrating John in every way that I can. And both of the boys, actually, on the cover of the book, it's a picture that was taken the day of his service. Both of the boys are wearing suits and they're wearing a tie from their father. And they spoke. I have a QR code in the book where you can actually link to the service, because I was bright enough to hire a videographer to film it. Remember, this was back in the day when you just couldn't put your phone on and film it. And I wanted my boys to be able to hear the stories about their father from people other than mom, right? And so the service is there. And it's so funny because I asked the boys, I said, okay, we're going to have lunch after we're done. What do you think we should have? And the boys said, pizza. We have to have pizza. I can't even tell you how, I think it was like, I don't know, 150 pizzas that were delivered so that everybody could have pizza. But that's when you're, 10 years old, that's what you're going to have, right? It was perfect.
And this is an instructive moment for everyone, because one time years ago, I had a thing that I called Family Legacies,
Yes.
where I would go and I would interview somebody who was older so that they would have a CD. See, a CD is a disc, and it used to go in a little thing there. Anyway, so
I know what a CD is. Yes, I do.
But there are people in our audience who have a CD. What the hell is that?
VCR tape is throwing it way too far back, and I still know what that is.
So, but the problem is a lot of folks don't think in terms of, they don't want to, death is in a lot of people's view is so final. And they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge that it's a real possibility. But I have to tell you this story, Rachel. My dad, in the fall of 2004, I went and interviewed him. He went and had surgery on December 7th, and he passed away on December 30th. I had an hour CD of him that, because I was doing radio and stuff, I had the skills to edit it. And so on his memorial service day, I go and I ask the pastor, do you have an AV guy and an audio video guy? And he said, yeah, he's back there. And so I gave him the CD that I had edited down to about 8 minutes. And I said, play, when I'm speaking, I want you to play this. And that's the entire chapel, or in this case, it was the church, the big church. The entire group could hear my dad tell his story of how he met my mom, of how he wanted to be remembered and lived his life, and all of that. There wasn't a dry eye in the house, but that is how we celebrate. That's how we can celebrate. Because I don't know if you know this, but we're all going to die.
You're kidding. Seriously?
No, I've heard that.
Gee, Kev, I had no idea. I think you're right.
So it's not, and when you get to be, and you're still younger than me, Rachel, but when you get to be my age, you have people, they're dropping like flies. And my mother, who was 90, she used to go to a funeral a week, and then they would sit around and compare what the offering was after at the reception. Oh no, last week's was so much better than this. Do you remember that sandwich we had last week? It was really good, and this is okay, but you know what I mean? And so but that's
Yes,
but that's all part of life. And
it
so
is.
and so treat it like and by the way, and I have to say this to you also, you know that your husband's name was John, right?
Yes, yes.
John is so friggin' proud of you. And I know that he is with you and the boys every day. And he values everything that you're doing, and that you are giving back in such a meaningful way. And I just wanted you to know that from my heart.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate that because like I said earlier, John was such a private guy, and here's what we do know too is that illness does isolate. You're embarrassed to go out, you're embarrassed to be seen in a wheelchair. It is. I mean, well, from people of our generation, I think the younger people are much better at dealing with that and putting it out there. But that touches my heart because I believe that this is still part of his legacy, and taking away that stigma that is associated with an illness like this, or just making people aware of it, because like I said, the community is still so very, very small, and proceeds from the book are going to the Live Like Lou Foundation, which didn't even exist for us, but it is actually like a boots on the ground for families. It provides financial help. It provides philanthropic help. Lou Gehrig was part of a fraternity. So these fraternities now will go and serve families that have ALS, help them with yard work or cleanup and all kinds of things. It provides, money for scholarship for kids who have a parent with ALS. And it also provides just those lifestyle things. You have to refurb the bathroom, because guess what? Most bathrooms can't accommodate a wheelchair, or you need a ramp to get the wheelchair into that. These are so many things. And this organization was founded by an attorney who was diagnosed with ALS. And he said, I want to leave ALS better than when I found it. So I'm going to create this so that this is actual application, practical help for the people who are dealing with this every single day. So
What's the name of the organization again?
Live Like Lou. And it's in reference to Lou Gehrig, who was that New York Yankees baseball player, the Iron Horse. He was actually, I think he was even better than Babe Ruth, actually. But we could talk
He
about that.
was.
But he was diagnosed. He left baseball, and he made a speech his last day of baseball. He said,
I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
yes, exactly. And it's so amazing that such a good person, I hate that he's remembered with such a horrible disease, but he was the most famous person at the time, and he was able to bring a lot of attention to it. I think he was diagnosed at 39 and passed at 41. He was very young, and it was 3 years. And yeah, it just, so Live Like Lou, they are all over the country, and they are just doing their boots on the ground, and I love them to pieces.
Rochelle?
Yeah, if anything, I'm going to challenge myself, and I want to challenge all of our viewers. Go join something like this. If you're feeling like maybe you could be doing more and your cup isn't so full and you question all these things, just maybe schedule yourself for an hour once a month. Go help an organization, go be involved, go learn what it is like to be in someone else's shoes, to see the butterflies you have in front of you every single day that maybe are invisible right now. Rachel, you are so inspiring and so powerful. Like, you're like this energy ball. You could like run a car all by yourself. And I love that you've brought such passion and purpose in the awareness of something that is so heavy. It is so heavy. But to remind people, don't live like you're going to die. Don't live without purpose, but man, be thankful for who you are. Be thankful for your life and the people around you. I bet, Rachel, and I'd love to hear what you have to say before we close out the show, that there is no argument or opinion in this world that can divide us that is worth it when we don't know that death could be around the corner.
You've nailed it, Rochelle. And here's the deal. None of us know how much time we have. And when the reality is staring you in the face, right? Because what's the difference? We had a deadline for John. As Kevin said, all of us are going to die. We just don't know. We just don't know when. And what I've learned through all of this is I'm so grateful. I think sometimes our heart is broken open so that we can love more and have more compassion for people who are going through something. And all of us are going to go through something. And if we've already gone through something, we'll probably end up going through something else. So what are you doing to fortify yourself? How are you pouring into your spirit? And how are you fortifying the spirit of your community and the people around you? And if you're not grateful enough for what's going on in your life, do exactly what Rochelle said. Spend some time with people who are in a different journey, who are really struggling, and share what you have with them, and perhaps that will change your heart in a different way. But what I do know is that I am grateful. The first thing I say when my eyes open in the morning is thank you for another day, because there are going to be a lot of people that don't wake up or that won't see the end of the day. And for me, I'm just aware of it all, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And please don't misunderstand. Please don't think Rachel's living over here with unicorns and rainbows all day long, because that's not happening. But I've just chosen to realize, and maybe it's when we do go through some of these things that our awareness changes, and our gratitude factor, I think, just goes through the roof, because we're not done. We have a story that's left to be shared. And please know that if you are in a hard space, that your struggle and your pain it will not be wasted. You may be sharing your story on Positive Talk Radio and empowering and encouraging somebody else and touching their life in a way that you never, ever thought possible.
And I have to tell you this, Rachel. I like to remember Lou Gehrig for something else.
Okay,
Do you remember a guy by the name of Wally Pipp?
I can't say that I do, Kevin.
Rochelle, Wally Pipp. Come to mind?
An actor, I mean?
No, he was the first baseman for the New York Yankees.
I don't know that.
And he got hurt one day.
Okay.
And a rookie that had just been called up took his place. His name was Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
And Wally Pipp never saw first base again. Because they didn't call Lou Gehrig Iron Horse for nothing. He held until, and I'll remember it, but until his record was beaten. It was like a 50-year-old mark of how many games in a row Lou Gehrig played.
Consecutively. Yes.
And Wally Pipp sat on the bench going, you could have been me.
Yeah. I did not know that. I know, Wally, whatever happened to you, sorry about that. But
it's actually a famous story about if don't ever let your backup take your role, because you could be the next Wally Pipp, is what they say. So
wow. Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. I know Lou Gehrig was a great guy, but he got a great break, didn't he? He took advantage of a great break as well. And that's the thing too. We never know when they're coming. We never know when we're gonna get asked to do that thing that may change our life forever. We just don't know.
Exactly. And Rochelle, you do this so beautifully. Would you like to take us out of the show? And then before we play the end, I want to play Would You Live For It? And so we'll do that then the end. But you get to take us out.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin, for always making this possible. And Rachel, thank you so much for spending your time with us, for creating the book, for living the way that you do, for people to feel that there is another way through the hardship of what we don't see the end in. And you said something I want to leave us with before we get out all your information again. You said, let your heart break open. And I really, really just want that to sit with people and realize, heartbreak is a part of life. Are you going to let that heartbreak close you forever? Or are you going to let it break you open and become the unimaginable, like Rachel? So thank you again so much for being who you are, spending this time with us. You have to come back. That's not a request. And please do, before we play these last little video clips, that this last one I am dedicating to you. Any ways that we can contact you, your website, the book, where to find it, all that fun stuff.
Yes. Well, spiritedprosperity.com. You can connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Insta. And of course, I can't wait. Positive Talk Radio and I are going to be really good friends. I'm so excited about that. And Amazon, you can find the book on Amazon. Or if you have loved listening to my voice for this past hour, please download me on Audible. You can listen to me for 5.5 hours narrate The Widow Chose Red. Absolutely. So I just want to thank the two of you for what you are bringing into the world, for sharing your gifts with so many people. I wish you Godspeed on your journey, and I will look forward to sitting with you two again very soon.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm actually going to get Godspeed tattooed on the back of my ankle. When I get that tattoo done, I'm going to send you a picture. I love you even more for saying that.
And you are just sensational. And we want to end this with a couple of thoughts. And again, you have to come back. Like Rochelle said, that ain't no request. That's a rule that you've got to come back, because we got much more for you to share and to talk with you. And by the way, if your sons would ever like to come with you on the show, that would be really cool for us to have them on as well.
I will absolutely talk to them about that. I kind of thought, Kevin, you might be thinking that way. I'll see what I can do.
Am I that transparent? Well, apparently so. Apparently so.
Well,
So,
you're a guy.
that's exactly right. At least I'm 68. I used to be a guy. Now I'm just a grandpa or something silly thing.
It's a thick transparency. That's okay.
Oh, fine. So thank you both, and thank you everybody for listening. And listen to this, and Rachel Kerr Schneider, and her website, Rochelle, again, is
spiritedprosperity.com, and go find the book Why the Widow Chose Red ? And go see for yourself, listen to it, buy it, and check out her website again, Spirited Prosperity. And until next time, Rachel, thank you. And for everyone who tuned in, we love you.
Absolutely.
And I got to tell you, 5.5 hours for an audiobook, I admire your tenacity. That's tough.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So listen to this, everybody, and thank you for being here. Here is another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. The world is full of people who would die for someone they love. But what about living for them? Waking up early to take care of your health. Letting go of the habits that steal your years. Choosing rest instead of running yourself empty. The truth is, your family doesn't want a hero who dies for them. They want a parent who stays. A friend who grows old with them. A soul who chooses life every single day. Don't just die for love. Live for it. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.